Hello everyone, Zelrant here, and today we're going to be talking about the next unit coming out for Girls Frontline 2, Zhaohui. We're going to kind of just go over her kit, and then I can kind of give my thoughts on her overall towards the end. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So Zhaohui, we'll take a look at her passive first, because it kind of dictates how her entire kit works. Now, you won't understand everything immediately until you know all of her skills. But on her passive here, you have at the end of action, Zhaohui can select a Shadow Spike, which she produces through her skills up above, within a 9-tile radius, and selects a tile within 2 tiles of that, the selected Shadow Spike, and then lands on that designated tile. So she has a lot of mobility because of this, and then increases her Confectance Index by 1 point. If an ally dealt single target damage to an enemy within her attack range, Zhaohui will activate action support against the enemy, applying a damp for 2 turns and increasing Hydra damage equivalent of 80% attack and 2 stability damage to it. And this can only be triggered once per turn. So that is her passive. The biggest thing is the Shadow Spike and her high mobility that she has within her kit. So you can kind of look up here. So she just has your standard basic attack. Nothing really built into that overall. So then we have her first skill here, Shadow Assault. Active AoE control, does 3 stability damage, has a cooldown of 1 turn. So selects a direction and deals AoE physical damage, as you can kind of see over here, equivalent to 110% attack to all enemy targets within a 4 tiles along that direction, and then applies stun for 1 turn. So she does have a little bit of CC right there. And if they have Hydro type debuffs, which you're only going to use Zhaohui in a Hydro team, so they almost certainly will have Hydro debuffs. And then increases the Confectance Index by 1 point. Increases crit rate of the next active attack for self by 10%. So this is just one you'll be using every other turn, basically with a 1 turn cooldown. You then have the skill 2, which has no cooldown or no cost to it. And so this is the one that deals with the Shadow Spike, as we talked with her passive. So selects an empty tile within a 6-tile radius and summons a Shadow Spike, dealing AoE Hydro damage equivalent to 90% attack to all enemies within that 2-tile radius, and inflicts fixed interest for 2 turns. So you can kind of see, got a wide range of where you can place this thing. And then it puts fixed interest on them. And this is one thing that's going to be kind of nice with Zhaohui in the future. As fixed interest is when the holder takes damage, the attack recovers HP equivalent to 20% of the damage dealt. This is considered a Hydro type debuff. I see this actually being pretty decent when you're looking at the mono Hydro team, which has Springfield, Florence, and Tololo in it. With Zhaohui, this makes it where you can have, like, Tololo can be a little bit more survivable with the buff that Florence gives out, because she just goes so often that she's taking a ton of damage from Florence, from the, whatever that buff's called on her, the stimulant one, where she's going to take damage every time she goes. And while Springfield is plenty good at healing, this can just make it a little bit safer for her. And so we have that. And then we have, let's see here, yeah, fixed interest for 2 turns. And so that's the Shadow Spike. And then after you do this, you can use, with your passive, you can move to that Shadow Spike, or within the range of that Shadow Spike. And so you can kind of see that's a pretty nice amount of range she can go, because not only do you have your initial movement, you can then place the Shadow Spike somewhere, and then she can just jump to within range of that. So that's pretty nice right there. And this one has no cooldown, so you can do this every turn, realistically, if you wanted to. You then have her ultimate. So this one has stability damage 2, very high confectance cost here of 6 on it. So this one selects a Shadow Spike. So this is another one that's utilizing those Shadow Spikes within a 9-tile radius, and selects a tile within a 2-tile radius of that selected Shadow Spike, lands on that designated tile. So this is another one that lets her teleport. And just like her passive, dealing Hydra damage equivalent to 160% attack to the nearest enemy within a 6-tile radius, and inflicts congestion for 2 turns. And so what congestion is cannot be healed, considered a Hydro debuff. And so that's a way, if we're fighting something that can heal itself, which I'm guessing there's a boss out there that does it. I can't think of it off the top of my head. That can be kind of valuable there. Oh my goodness, my cat is just wanting nonstop pets here. But that's her ultimate. And so that's pretty much her entire kit. Nothing really too much to it. High mobility with that Shadow Spikes. And then she gives that little bit of extra healing there with fixed interest on her skill 2. And then if you need to do some AoE line damage, you have her skill 1 to kind of do that. But it's going to take quite a while to build up the Confectance Index to get her to be able to do her ultimate. But let's go ahead and look at her. Let's look at the fixed key first. Fixed keys, and then at her dupes. So at the fixed keys, we have, first one is increases damage dealt to targets with Hydro type debuffs by 10%. She's not your damage dealer. Don't really care too much about this one, unless you look at the other ones here and see if there's less value in them potentially. But she doesn't do enough damage for me to be too concerned about that. You have Shadow Assault on fixed key 2. When the skill only hits one target, deals additional fixed damage equivalent to 10% attack, and applies damp for 2 turns. So another way to apply a damp to the enemy. You have fixed key 3. If there's at least one Shadow Spike on the field, at the end of action recovers HP equivalent to 10% max HP. I mean, you have plenty of healing capability within the Hydro team. I'm not sure how much value that brings to her. You have fixed key 4, Static Gale. When the skill is used, gains 1 layer of quick barrier and knocks back a target by 2 tiles. So she has a knockback built into her kit, and then she gets that quick barrier, which is target damage taken is reduced by 60% effective once. So just a little bit of tankiness there. You have fixed key 5. If Zhaohui is within 2 tiles of a Shadow Spike, decreases the damage dealt to stability gauge by 1 point and decreases AoE damage received by 30%. And then fixed key 6, which is going to probably be one of her more important ones. Before action support, dispel 2 buffs from the target. So she does have a dispel built into her fixed key 6 there. So you can kind of see what the recommended ones up here. So I guess they do want you to use, even though she's not really a damage dealer, I mean, most of her keys really aren't all that valuable. You're going to need more damage versus being able to tank more. So fixed key 1, 2, and 4 are kind of the suggested ones. But then 6 will be the situational one if you need to dispel buffs, which we do know with a lot of bosses we want that. So let's go ahead and look at her dupes here. And ultimately, if you really wanted to invest in Hydro Team significantly, I mean, like really significantly, then you can start working on hers. But there's way more value in all the other Hydro units and their dupes. So V1, at the start of battle, summons Shadow Spike near Zhaohui. Increases the number of action support by 1 time. So at V1, you can get another additional action support. Her damage is very minuscule though, so it's really nothing too crazy. If there are at least 1 Shadow Spikes on the field, increases damage dealt by 10%. So you can get a little bit more damage out of her there. You have V2. This little note here. By default, it will be summoned on the tile to the right of Zhaohui. If that tile is invalidated, it'll be summoned to the tile to the left. If this is still invalid, it'll be summoned to the tile behind. So that's where it will place it. And there's no way for, I think, you to be completely surrounded on a start for it to be moved to the front. V2 increases the range by 3 tiles on Static Gale, and the effective range by 1 tile. Damage dealt to stability gauge by 1 point, and damage dealt to 110% attack. There's a little bit more damage there in range, but nothing too crazy on that skill. V3 increases damage dealt to the stability gauge by 2 points, inflicts fixed interest on the target for 2 turns. And so this is on the skill Emerald Tempest, which I believe that one is, yeah. So I think this one's just kind of converting it here. Zhaohui can bring all allies within 2 tile radius while moving towards the designated tile. So now she can actually bring the allies as well there. V4, the target no longer needs to have Hydro type debuffs to apply a stun. Doesn't really matter. I mean, you should be playing it with the mono Hydro. They should have Hydro type debuffs if you're going to use that skill. For each target hit, recovers stability gauge by 1 point. Increases crit rate of the next attack by 20%. And for each target hit, further increases crit rate by 5%. So a way to make it a little bit easier for her to crit. I don't see much at all in this beginning one, because I would think in the Hydra team you should always have this. Especially when you're fighting like Gunsmoke Frontline's bosses. Then you have V5. At the range, selecting a Shadow Spike is spanning the entire field. So now you have the entire field. You don't so she can teleport cross map basically with this. Increases the number of action supports by 1 time. Now she does 3. Before attacking, if the target has 2 or more debuffs, increases damage dealt by 20%. And so this is kind of the point where they start to really add up, where she can start doing some decentish damage at this point. Then you got her V6, increases crit damage of that, the skill Emerald Tempest by 30%, and increases the damage dealt to 180%. After skill use, increases attack by 10%. This can be stacked up to 3 times. And so, if you want all the V5, you might as well go to V6 and just get her damage up a little bit more. And so that is all of her dupes. Now let's just take the last thing into consideration. Her weapon. She is an, oh yeah, and I didn't mention at the beginning, she is an SMG user. And so she can take complete advantage of Svarog if you just want the free-to-play option. Or you have the Battle Pass classified manuscript. But when it comes to hers, the Unstoppable, which I think it's a pretty good-looking gun. It has a trait, if the user has moved 5 tiles or more, gains movement 2 for 1 turn at the start of the next action. So it's basically the same thing as classified manuscript. She's already got extremely high mobility. This just adds a little bit more to it. Then you have, if the holder counters an enemy weakness, increases the damage dealt by 10% up to 20%, increases crit damage by 10 up to 20 towards the enemy with Hydro type debuffs, and then imprint skill increases damage dealt towards PMC units by 2.5%. It's nothing too crazy there. Her weapon to me is nothing. Like, I wouldn't get it, primarily because it's all targeting toward, she's a support unit to an extent, and this is all targeting like herself because it's the holder. So your damage dealer in Hydro is Nikita and Tololo, and if you heavily invest in Springfield, she can do a lot of damage as well. And so ultimately for her, I would take classified manuscript, which I have, and give that to her. Or if you're free to play, just go with Svarog. But ultimately, that's kind of her kit here, and there's nothing too crazy in this, which is why you're going to say a lot of people say that she's just an easy skip, especially right now, because we don't have Springfield. But I will be making a video on talking a little bit about Springfield, because she's potentially the next one based on all the rumors that I see. And then that broadcast kind of makes it kind of an indicator or a thought as well. So I'll be making a video on that. Let's make her even more of a want to skip, so you can have pulls to make sure you can get Springfield up to V1. But you have that, and then, eventually we'll get Nikita, which is the big damage dealer, and then Florence in the future. I think, like, her value comes into play with Florence to a certain extent. Now, you can what I've seen is you can use either her or kind of Sabrina if you want to go full mono Hydro. I do like fixed interest, just for that little extra top off and health for like a Tololo with Florence, because of how much damage she can take. I don't know how useful it would be in practice, but it is nice to have that. And then if you have like a boss that you want to make it where they cannot be healed, she has that capability in her kit. But right now for us, we just really don't have, like, the Hydro team hasn't come online yet. Springfield brings them online. We know she will rerun in 4 patches after this. So, and then you can kind of see they stopped doing pros and cons on like the future units here, because I think they stopped. Yeah, they stopped right after Paris. But they do have it for Zhaohui right here. Pros, great mobility, and even the ability to teleport back to one of her anchors after an action. That is the biggest thing, is she's massive mobility. She's kind of like Diane, where she has huge mobility, but hers is like a teleport. She has a unique debuff, and that's what I mentioned here with that fixed interest. The anchor occupies a tile on the map, but cannot be attacked or damaged, so you can block units. Oh, I didn't even think of that. So she can actually block areas, because it can't be attacked or damaged. So you can actually use it as kind of like a defensive barrier there. That's pretty decent. I don't know how situational or useful that will be, but her S1 can stun enemies, although without V2 you need to apply a Hydro debuff first. Like, to me, she's mono Hydro. You're going to have those out there pretty easily. Her ultimate becomes a mass teleport at V3. Yep. And then here's the big part. Garbage tier damage. She gets better at V5, where she can make 3 assists per turn, but with her low stats, she is very far behind as a proper sentinel. And that's kind of the biggest thing is, she's not she's viewed as a she's supposed to be a damage dealer, but the damage is terrible. Nikita's so much better. Tololo's so much better with Springfield. And yeah, it's just not enough. And then talking about dupes, which I didn't really bring up yet, her dupes are way below Springfield's. Springfield's is the top dupes in the game, in my opinion. If you're going to go heavily whale on any unit to V6, that's going to be Springfield. Even more so than Klukai. And then you have, then the next big one on Hydro would be Nikita, because Nikita is like the proper damage dealer in the Hydro team. And her dupes all the way up to V6 are crazy. So if you're starting to whale and you want to really invest in Hydro, the next one's Nikita. And then to me, Floance becomes the one to invest after that. And then Zhaohui. So before you want to even deal with her dupes, you've got so many. You got to be like a super Leviathan whale to want to pull over her dupes. And then you got to take into consideration the other elements too, because I would put her dupes behind so many others. Yuhi, for example, is crazy. If you really like if you like Klukai, then you can go and put her heavily into her dupes because she's good. You'll eventually have Leva over the electric team, where I would put her dupes way ahead. So just overall, not really worth the investment unless you just want to go insanely crazy on Hydro. So, but we'll kind of see. I will make a should you poll video right before she comes out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. That's Zhaohui. And yeah, if you like my content, if you could like, comment, subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.